with them were actually came out from the discussions and consultations involving multi-stakeholders. And I mentioned, I think, earlier that it was really a long process. So there was a consultation at the national level, a stock taking, and finally, the negotiation. Second, I think like many of us, one concern is how are we going to implement? The texts were so nice, the text we anticipate that a lot of concerns could be resolved since all the discussions and what is in the final text of the GCM captures all dimensions of labor migration or international migration. And in fact, it covers all stages of the migration cycle. I think the key here is how do we, as a country, individually, and how are we, as ASEAN, as a region, could manage to move forward what is in the GCM? Because in the first place, I think there is a consensus among us that when it comes to complementarity, GCM and what we have at the ASEAN are really do really complement each other and support each other. And in fact, I repeat, it even reinforces what we have at the ASEAN level. There are some recommendations that I earlier proposed as part of the presentation, but it was not dealt with in detail because of the limited time. There was a mention here earlier that ASEAN came to the GCM negotiation not as one region, right? Not as one bloc, like any other regions. But I'm proud to tell you that even if we're not able to speak there as a region, but all our representatives there, representing our respective countries, really managed to have their voices heard. And productivity, actually, they were very productive putting forward all their recommendations. And as you can see in the text, even the most sensitive issues we managed to be heard. Like, for example, the concern on visa sponsorship, the concern on pushing forward ethical recruitment, how are we going to harness partnership with all sectors, and what should be we put in place when it comes to reintegration. All of them actually managed to be landed in the final text of the GCM. Now, we are now at this point that we are anticipating the adoption in December. But there are many things that even we're not there yet, but preparations can be made ahead. One is there was a call at the GCM to have national responses. And at this point, each of our countries should be able to already engage our respective stakeholders, and that should include the civil society, the trade union, the employers, the agencies, and everyone, to ensure that we can have really a national platform for the implementation. And then the next question now is, how do we going to link GCM with our region as a region? So there may be implementation, there may be plans at the national level, but there are also some initiatives that could already be done at the regional level. The point here is we should not be looking at the GCM as another instrument, but it is can be a very powerful instrument depending on how we will be pursuing all the commitments stated and of course agreed upon by I mentioned more than 190 UN member states, and that includes all of us. Thank you.
Thank you for all the very pertinent and useful comments from all the speakers. I think whether it is the Global Compact or the SDGs, ultimately the implementation, it has to come down to the national and provincial and local laws are made at the national level, and in terms of implementation and enforcement, it has to come down to the state and local level. So I think the global frameworks are a global framework. And the Global Compact, I think its strong point is that it's a comprehensive framework, and its weakness, if we can call it that, is that it's non-binding. It asks the members to draw upon and then lists a series of actions, right? But it does have a review mechanism, and it has a implementation mechanism, including to support it, the formation of a UN network. Now, when we come to the SDGs, like the SDGs, this is, as I mentioned, this is the overarching framework for development. And you will, if you look at the Global Compact text, you will see references to the SDGs and how the GCM should reinforce implementation of the SDGs. But of course, Global Compact is focusing on migration, so it's a more comprehensive document on migration. Whereas the SDGs, migration is one part of the development agenda. With regards to the SDGs, I think the positive part that you can see is that the SDGs are being mainstreamed. Like you will see that in the SDGs are mainstreamed in the different national agendas, national action plans, or the development plans. It is also mainstreamed in the priorities of agencies like the ILO and other development agencies. Other positive element of the SDGs is that countries have set up structures for implementation, which include consultations and involvement of non-state actors. So, for example, in Thailand, there is the National Committee on the implementation of the SDGs, which is chaired by the Prime Minister, and it has membership from different stakeholders, include academia, CSOs, and others. So, I think the weak point of the SDGs just up to now, and I think the last speaker mentioned that there is not that much time really left to implement it. I think the point which needs attention in the SDGs is the indicator framework, because it's quite an ambitious indicator framework. And the SDGs is different from the MDGs in that they have set up these quite precise indicators. And it is implementing this indicator framework which will require attention. Lastly, I think the last speaker brought out good points about the UN Convention 1990 on migrant workers and members of their families, the ILO conventions. These are binding. So when a country has ratified an ILO convention, they are accountable for its implementation. For example, most countries in the region have ratified Convention 19, which is on occupational accident compensation. So if they do not, and a key principle of this is equal treatment between nationals and migrant workers. So if they do not implement it, they can be held to account and make changes. Qatar, for example, has ratified Convention 29 on forced labor. And therefore, when there were complaints brought about by the International Trade Union Council, Qatar had to respond to those complaints. And they have brought about a lot of legislative changes now. The same as UAE. So the binding conventions, and we don't have to speak just about the migrant worker specific convention, because all the ILO conventions apply to migrant workers, unless it is specified they do not. And there are many conventions which are ratified, and member states therefore have to implement those conventions. And you are correct, of course, that Goal 5 on empowerment of women and gender equality is cross-cutting and applies to migrants, just like all the other SDGs as well, if you take social protection as well, because the progress, the measurement of progress is to be disaggregated by migratory status as well.
Thank you. May I just add one